Welcome to this Global Index 2021 Japanese launch event of the Access to Nutrition initiative. On behalf of the whole ATNI team, I would like to welcome you to today's event. My name is Inge Kouwer. I'm the Executive Director of the Access to Nutrition Foundation, and I would like to introduce you to the two co-hosts of today. Mrs. Kawai from Nomura Asset Management, who is also an ATNI investor signatory, and Mr. Kenji Fuma. Over to Mrs. Kawai.
Hello, this is Kawai from Nomura Asset Management. Thank you very much for giving us this honorable role of hosting this event. We are the biggest asset management company in Japan, and we have businesses globally. We are working on climate changes, human rights, and healthcare, and other social problems as well. These ESG challenges are globally faced, and the problems are interconnected. Therefore, we participate in different initiatives such as this event. We realize giving a positive impact for social problems, and one of the goals for us is about nutrition and food problems in the world. As an asset management company in Japan, for the first time, we participated in the ENT conferences. Japan also has a lot of nutritional problems, and we understand that global collaboration is very important and essential. We understand and appreciate the ranking of ATNI. We understand this kind of information is very useful for improving nutrition globally. We are collaborating with food and nutrition companies in Japan and working on this very important issue together.
Mr. Fuma, do you want to say a few words?
All right. Hi, はじめまして。
Hello. I'm Mr. Fuma from Neural. We are a consulting company for sustainability. Also connected to this today's theme, we are working closely with the Ministry of Health as well. In terms of the nutrition, it's not been a very known topic for the Japanese market. However, this is a very important topic, so we've been speaking with investors in Japan to focus on this topic. And I feel this is a great opportunity today to meet other investors and stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Nomura, and also Nuro, for your big support in this Japanese launch event. For ATNI, it is really important to have a special launch event for Japanese stakeholders. First of all, We have, of course, 3 Japanese companies on our index, Ajinomoto, Meiji, and Suntory. We also have 4 Japanese investor signatories now. Besides Nomura Asset Management, we also have Resona Asset Management, Fukoku Capital Management, and recently Mitsubishi Trust and Banking Corporation as Japanese investor signatories. So they are very important for us to reach out to the Japanese companies to ensure that together we work on better nutrition for all. And today I would like to kick off with presenting to you the results of the Global Index 2021. After my presentation, we will have several speakers reflecting on the outcomes and especially also talking about actions going forward. If we can go to the slide to introduce ATNI. So ATNI, that's on the next slide. ATNI is a non-profit organization established in the Netherlands. And we have a vision that in a world everyone needs to have a healthy, balanced diet to ensure optimal physical and mental development. And that death and illness from diet-related diseases will be gone. So that is really the focus of our organization. And we focus on developing and delivering tools that track the contribution of the food and beverage sector. So we have accountability tools that measure what companies are doing to tackle both obesity and overweight and diet-related diseases, as well as undernutrition. As an organization, we find transparency, independence, and a multi-stakeholder approach very important. To give you a bit of a deep dive into ATNI, we have a short video to show you.
Malnutrition in some form affects every country in the world.
1 in 9 people is hungry or undernourished.
1 in 3 people is overweight or living with obesity.
2 billion people lack essential micronutrients such as iron, vitamin A, vitamin D, and zinc in their diets.
Over 800,000 infant deaths could be avoided each year if they were optimally breastfed. COVID-19 has exacerbated all forms of malnutrition.
Women, children, marginalized and low-income groups are most at risk of malnutrition.
It is estimated that by 2022, the pandemic might lead to a 2.6 million increase in stunted children.
With a retail value of nearly $2.5 trillion in 2020 and a scope that reaches virtually every individual on the planet, the packaged foods industry has a significant impact on nutrition globally.
The Nutrition Year of Action comes at the right time to urgently transform food systems and promote better diets for all.
ATNI is a non-profit organization that develops tools to track the contribution of the food and beverage sector to address the global nutrition crisis. Our engagement with companies and other parties are all focused on driving positive change.
ATNI's strategy involves 4 work streams.
Our global indexes provide comprehensive analysis and ranking of the world's largest food and beverage manufacturers in addressing the global nutrition crisis. Each index includes an assessment of each company's product portfolio. For baby food companies, it also includes an assessment of the marketing of breast milk substitutes and complementary foods.
ATNI develops accountability tools and programs targeting large and small companies in the individual countries. ATNI collaborates with organizations to produce specialized accountability tools and research to feed into existing benchmarks and initiatives.
Finally, ATNI engages in action research to zoom in on new nutrition topics and develop knowledge to feed into new indexes and tools.
Institutional investors are key users of our work. ATNI has over 70 investor signatories with 15.5 trillion US dollars in assets under management, who use the results of our indexes in their research and engagement to guide responsible investment.
With a growing number of impactful publications, ATNI is a unique global accountability organization for business action on nutrition.
ATNI invites you to use our tools to drive change towards a vision of the world where nobody goes to bed hungry.
A world where everyone eats a healthy,
Affordable diet that has all the nutrients needed
to grow and develop fully.
I hope that this video has provided you with a little bit of background of the work that ATNI is doing. I would like to focus now on the results of the Global Index 2021, and on the next slide you see the 25 companies that were assessed on this 2021 Global Index. So these are the 20 top companies selected by their financial revenues, as well as 5 companies that were assessed in previous iterations of the index in which we wanted to reassess. Among them, as I mentioned already, 3 Japanese companies, Ajinomoto, Meiji, and Suntory. The methodology, which is described on the next slide, consists of 7 pillars and 1 additional pillar. So there are 7 pillars that are important and where we have several indicators around. The first pillar is around nutrition governance and nutrition strategies. The second pillar is around product reformulation and product innovation and how companies contribute to food fortification. The third pillar is around making healthier products accessible and affordable, especially for vulnerable consumers. Then the fourth pillar, which is category D, is around marketing of healthy foods for especially children, but also for consumers in general. Category E is around providing employees of the companies with a healthy lifestyle and good nutrition status, and also consists of a program based on consumer approaches. So what are companies doing to help to increase the nutrition education and nutrition status of all consumers? Category F is around labeling and health and nutrition claims. And category G is about engagement with stakeholders in support of public health. Then we have a separate category for responsible BMS marketing, so the marketing of breast milk substitutes, that marketing is aligned with the international code that was introduced in 1981 by the World Health Organization and accepted by the World Health Assembly. I will come back to that later. Then the most important thing is, of course, the results of the Global Index 2021. So for the 22 companies that were assessed both in 2018 and 2021, which includes also the 3 Japanese companies, they were in both indexes, the average score is 3.6. We see that especially among the leading companies, except for Arla, they scored lower actually than in the 2018 iteration. So it seems that the leading companies on the global index are stagnating in terms of their score. This has partly to do with changes in the methodology because, of course, the methodology is not static. It evolves as international standards develop. But it is an area of concern. So we've really done a call to action to leading companies to step up their effort. At the same time, we see in the middle part of the index, and I will talk about that later when I also discuss the scores of Ajinomoto and Meiji. The middle segment has really improved their scores over time, step by step, but it is positive to see that improvement in scores. Nestlé leads the 2018 index, so Nestlé has the highest score. They score 6.7 out of 10. Still some way to go, but it is really very much appreciated for Nestlé to have this highest score. And then Unilever and Friesland Campina score second and third. And good to mention that both Arla as well as Meiji were recognized as the big improvers. So Arla improved from 3.3 in 2018 to 5.1. Meiji rose from 0.8 to 3.1 in 2021 and rose 5 places in the index. If I then talk about a summary of the key findings, on the next slide, you see, as I mentioned, the average score is 3.3. And we've also done a specific assessment of the products of these companies. So we've done a product profile analysis where we assess the nutritional quality of the products. And we concluded that only 31% of the products that we've assessed globally met the independent healthy standard. We, however, assessed many more products than in 2018, so almost twice the amount. So the picture is more complete, but it is a point of attention. At the same time, I should mention that 9 of the companies in the global index have improved their product profile score since 2018. So the nutritional quality of their products in terms of lowering fat and sugars and sodium and increasing positive ingredients. For 9 of the companies, they have showed in this index improvement, which is a positive development. We've also seen that companies have improved their score in nutritional governance, with nutrition policy strengthened and management systems as well. And also in other areas like the nutrient profiling model, in disclosure on lobbying positions, we've seen companies improving. So I would like to zoom in a little bit on the Japanese companies' results. It is very good to see that Ajinomoto over time has improved the score. Of course, we would like to recommend further increasement, but the improvement again was there from 2.4 in 2018 to 3 in 2021, and especially in category D, marketing, and category B, products. Ajinomoto has improved their scores by introducing new policies like a new responsible marketing policy and the adoption of an own formal nutrient profiling model. So we're very pleased to see that recommendations that ATNI made in previous scorecards has taken over by Ajinomoto's management. And also we've been in contact with Ajinomoto between the indexes a lot to discuss these types of progress. And Ajinomoto is one of the 4 companies that use only health claims when the product meets nutrition criteria, which is important. We don't want to have health claims on unhealthy products, and Ajinomoto is doing a good job here. And also Ajinomoto over time is very strong in engaging with stakeholders internationally. As I mentioned, Meiji rose 5 places in the ranking since 2018, and that is really mainly to do with their new Vision CSR strategy, which includes a focus on nutrition for the elderly and women. And also Meiji, based on earlier recommendations, has introduced new policies relating to responsible marketing, labeling, and employee wellness. Suntory was assessed this time for the 2nd time and had a score of 1.1. I have to say that Suntory has not really, like Meiji and Ajinomoto, submitted a lot of additional data to ATNI. So the assessment is only based on information in the public domain, which is limited. But it is good to see that Suntory commits to addressing both SDG 3 as well as SDG 6. Then on the next slide, you see for all the companies, the Japanese companies, some recommendations. For Ajinomoto, the recommendations focus mainly around nutrition-related business risk assessments and setting targets now for product reformulation and accessibility of healthy and fortified products. There is now a system in place, which is a very good start, and we really hope that that translates into smart targets for product reformulation that really increases the healthiness of Ajinomoto's portfolio. And also, we hope that the fortification will be linked to Ajinomoto's own NPM. For Meiji, actually the same is very important, and it is actually, I must say, not only for Japanese companies. Globally, we see an enormous importance of improving the healthiness of the portfolios. That's really where companies can make a difference. And for Meiji, the same as for Ajinomoto and other global companies, important to introduce targets, introduce a nutrient profiling model, and start to report on these targets for product reformulation. We would also like Meiji to adopt a policy to improve affordability, to expand their responsible marketing policy to the whole portfolio. And that also will include breast milk substitutes in line with the code. And also to expand commitments on labeling to include all nutrients. For Suntory, we hope really that Suntory will start to further engage during the research process and then improve also disclosure across all ATNI categories. I already alluded a little bit to the importance of breastfeeding and our assessments of breast milk substitutes in all the work that we do. So the global index contains also a specific sub-ranking on marketing of breast milk substitutes, and then we assess whether the marketing of the baby food companies is aligned with the international code. Optimal breastfeeding is crucial to tackle both undernutrition as well as overweight, obesity, and diet-related diseases. So to ensure that companies, where they can, play a positive role in protecting breastfeeding is a key element of our methodology. So in category A, we have specific indicators that ask companies what they are doing to ensure breastfeeding mothers can work, and that there are facilities in the companies to support that, as well as that we look at parental leave, etc. But for baby food companies specifically, we also look at whether they comply with the international code. We've only focused our assessment so far on the largest baby food companies. And while in this index, Meiji is a baby food company and does produce baby foods, Meiji does not form part of the assessment since they are not one of the largest companies, as well as that the amount of baby food is lower than 5% of their total business. But Meiji actually might be involved in future assessment. But still, it is important here at this place to make a call to action for all baby food companies and to adopt marketing policies and fully align with the code, and not only in countries where there's regulations, but also in countries where there's weaker of no regulation, and also independent of what other companies are doing. We really ask for an unilateral compliance with the code. And at the same time, we also do a call to action to all countries, the governments in the countries, and to adopt laws and regulations that implement the code, because only by implementing regulation we can in the end create the supportive environment for companies to take this type of action. For the N4G summit, and I think the N4G summit will come back later, it is important to mention the principles of engagement for baby food companies, so they can only participate if they comply with the principle around marketing compliance. On the next slide, you see way we try as an organization to amplify our impact. So the overarching conclusion of the Global Index 2021 is that we still see progress, although, as I mentioned, for the leading companies, we encourage them to take more progress. And for the middle group companies, we really encourage them to continue to make the steps towards the golden standard, and also to speed up those steps. And we are there really to support and give guidance. So on the scorecards of the companies, you will see best practices, you will see areas where companies can improve. So these scorecards are really helpful to create for each company a roadmap for change. And as I mentioned, we are there to support with technical knowledge, and we're also organizing one-on-one meetings with all the companies on the index. So we've had already several meetings with companies, with technical experts, as well as senior management, to discuss the outcomes of the index and to discuss what is the pathway to reaching the SDGs on nutrition. We've also disseminated our index findings in various events so far related to the UN Food System Summit, which took place, of course, last month. And we will also continue to share the findings in preparation of Nutrition for Growth. And we're also actively involved in the preparations for Nutrition for Growth, supporting the government of Japan around investors, as well as supporting the business constituency group, so the business platforms, including also the Japanese business platforms, to come up with strong commitments that can then also be measured over time, because we really believe that businesses can play a major role in making this change happen and addressing the global nutrition crisis. We will also use the Index 2021 findings in future methodologies. So we've seen where are the gaps. We have also learned from companies, and I'm sure that today we will also learn from Ajinomoto and Meiji speaking on the panels and giving us feedback on the methodology, and we will learn from that and we will take that into future methodologies. Lastly, what is also important, and that is also on the next slide, one of our very important constituencies is the investor community. And I mentioned we have 4 Japanese investors, but in total we have now 71 institutional investors, which represent 60.5 trillion in assets under management. And they are backing up our data, and they are using our data in their engagement with companies and their investment decisions. And we're very grateful for that, because investors are very influential, as you all know, in a company. So at the moment, a collaborative investor engagement program is running, where investor signatories lead the engagement with companies, and with our ATNI data, they approach the companies with specific asks, which in the end will stimulate further action within the companies. So thank you for listening to this short introduction and overview of the findings. I would now like to hand over to Arisa, who will moderate the panel on the company reflection. So Meiji and Ajinomoto. Over to you, Arisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Inga. Can I just check that you can see me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Thank
Arisa.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Inga-san, ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much, Inga. I'll speak in Japanese. I'll be the moderator, and my name is Arisa Kishigami. First of all, JSIF, the Japanese Sustainable Investment Forum, is supporting today's event. I'd like to explain their activities briefly. Thank you very much for letting us our participation today. If you are interested in our activities, please check out our information. Okay. Next, I'm going to introduce Mr. Nishi, President of the Ajinomoto Group, followed by the Chief Sustainability Officer at Meiji, Mr. Jun Furuta. Thank you very much for your participation, Mr. Nishi and Mr. Furuta. I'm going to explain the logistics now. If you have any questions, please write in the Q&A box. We have a Q&A session later, so when if you have a question, please go ahead and write there. Okay. First of all, after hearing Ms. Inge's result reports, I'd like to hear from Ajinomoto and Meiji regarding the indices. As you are leading food and nutrition Japanese companies, I'd like to hear your policies in response to ATNI findings. Mr. Nishi?
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. So thank you very much for the invitation for such a great event, ATNI 2021. And on behalf of the company, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the successful release. And also I would like to introduce my company briefly. Since its founding, the Ajinomoto Group has consistently worked to solve social issues through its business and has improved economic value and led to growth by imagining the value shared with society and the community. Last year, the Ajinomoto Group declared that it would be reborn as a company that solves food and health issues as its goal for 2030. At the same time, the two outcomes up to 2030 are extending the healthy life expectancy of 1 billion people and reducing the environmental burden by 50%. As you can see, it is no tolerance, but the local habits and a local food to be nurtured. This is the only benchmark from the third party for nutrition, and we have set ATNI as a key KPI for nutritional activity. While continuing to be involved with ATNI, we will continue to contribute to the health and nutrition of the world by unlocking the functions of amino acids and advanced biofine technology. And we would like to thank ATNI for hosting this event for our Asian stakeholders. Asia is also an important region for us, and we believe it is necessary to deepen our understanding of the nutrition and food situation and challenges. This is, as you see here, that it is by region, so it is a global challenges that you can see, the like a super processed food. If you compare the sales between Asia and also Europe or the West, there has been a great difference here. In the pie chart here, you can see this is an example from Japan. According to this paper, the Japanese consume about half of their daily calories from processed or super processed food. And the other half is unprocessed or minimally processed. So most of the Asian countries follow the suit. It's not only about Japan, but all the nutritions are taken from the processed or super processed foods. So if you see by the categories, and can I draw your attention to the orange part? So the Ajinomoto Group product portfolio, the 30% of all food is frozen food and soups, beverages, and correspond to super processed foods. So that's the orange part or brown part. And so in order to assess nutritional intake from raw or minimally processed foods, it is necessary to develop an NPS comprehensively. And the category B, we would like to improve in this category. And in addition, category E, it is an improvement of the education, the nutritional literacy, should I say. So towards the consumers, we see that we need to improve that area. And we really appreciate that the ATNI's activities, and which is very much known in the West, although it has still an area or the potential to expand even further. And then we commit to provide further assistance and support in the and in December, there will be a Tokyo Nutrition for Growth Summit in Tokyo, and we, through N4G, it is going to be a great opportunity for us to communicate and further the discussion. And that'll be all from me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I see how serious you are, and thank you very much for suggesting candidly the areas for improvement. And of course, and I'm sure you do review or revise the methodology of the index as well. So that was very informative. And so this way you can see the ATNI has been very active, but as you heard in the Inga's presentation at the beginning, of course, there's room for improvement, as you can see, even in the Japanese market. And as Meiji, as a company, how did you receive these results? And if there are the parts or developments that you would like to introduce, please take the floor.
Hello.
Thank you very much for letting us join today from Meiji. My name is Mr. Jun Furuta. We established the company more than 100 years ago. The founder originally always had the mission and the purpose of distributing nutrition for the wider society. This is the core of our company policy. Therefore, when it comes to nutrition and improving our food range, it is our main interest. However, when it comes to the global standards, including ATNI scoring, we understand that our improvement is not sufficient. Of course, we are glad to see our ranking and score going higher this time. However, we understand our activities are not sufficient yet. We need to look at the international standard and the Japanese standards, and I see a big gap between those two. When it comes to the harmonization of the different standards, I think this is somewhere the Japanese government has to be part of. Ajinomoto Group is participating here as well. So we are paying close attention to Ajinomoto's activities too. In May this year, the Ajinomoto, maybe last year, Ajinomoto has started their own NPS nutrition profiling system, ANPS. We are interested in Ajinomoto's incorporation of the system, and at Meiji as well, we are considering such systems for the future. Like I said before, Meiji is still not there yet to meet the expectations from ATNI. Thank you very much for your presentations. Mr. Furuta, as you said, it's not just the companies and corporations, but other stakeholders such as government will have to be part of it. May I ask Mr. Nishi, how do you think we should expect the other stakeholders to join these activities?
特に第二次世界大戦が終了した直後というのは、日本は非常な飢餓の状態にありました。で、そこから
straight after the war, there had been a very acute hunger there in Japan because of poverty, and there had been many initiatives or efforts, and that has become the foundation in the economy in Japan to identify nutritional challenges by local governments. Each local government has ways to measure the improvement or deterioration of such status. And this is very important part to tackle the issue. So as part of the stakeholder investors, we have the ATNI, the index and results to be communicated to them. And then I'm sure that they are making all the efforts. I'm talking about the investors, the stakeholders and shareholders in order to improve. Do you have any opinion, Mr. Furuta?
我々基本的に栄養というキーワードの世界でですね、商品開発をしておりますので、投資家の方々に
talking about in terms of the product development. So not only from the nutrition point of view, but like sales and profitability is also important. So the nutrition is the key word, and also that within the global standard, we have to take the balance in here while we are improving the situation. And of course, we have to take into account that what sort of product or the business activities will be accepted and well received by the consumers. And of course, it has to be tasty, and tastiness is another keyword, but nutrition and others, we have to keep them in our minds at the core when we do develop products. How about you, Mr. Nishi? Yes. As an investor, the nutritional activities or efforts is something, it might look as a business output activities, but we have to transform that into outcome. So in that perspective, ATNI has a great role to play because of the coverage of all the index, including the suggestions that I made earlier. The nutrition is at its heart. It's so important for us to make a progress in this direction. And for example, reducing the salt, and then we've got this element of umami, as you know, and by introducing the reduction of salt, we can improve our health situation. And this is one of the activities that we are progressing, and we're going to present a midterm report in the Tokyo event in December. So these efforts or initiatives will lead to be the outcome. So that's my thought. Thank you very much. And I'm sure there will be other stakeholders in the latter panel as well. So perhaps we can further the discussion there. And audience, if you have any questions, we can move on to the Q&A session now. So we were having the discussion from the perspective of investors, but on the other hand, we have consumers as well. So when we talk to the consumers or communicate, how do you communicate your activities in terms of like nutrition and health to consumers? Please, Mr. Nishi. It's very difficult to transform the habits because food consumption is a life, like habits, isn't it? Day-to-day things. So 70% of people, even though they have the like a problematic health check result, they don't change their habits. So to address issues here, they need to be explained or communicated more simply, and so that it's easier to understand for them to do exactly what. Yes. I would like to touch upon our activities. The modern population So the amount of protein intake has dropped to the level of 1950s. That's right now, but it is something not quite recognized individually. So through a day-to-day diet, we need to pay attention to the protein intake. And obviously we need to increase. And then through our products, we are promoting the protein intake, but that's not enough because it has limitation because it's through the product. And with hams and sausages and these food products can be on board to increase the protein intake. So it can be part of the product solutions. So as a whole, not only through our staple products, but to increase the protein intake. But these kind of activities, like long-term, like little by little activities, are very essential.
Thank you very much. Of course, when it comes to nutrition problems, we tend to think about the areas of poverty and poorer countries. However, it's a very important and imminent problem in Japan as well. We have some questions from the audience. There was a mention about law implement in Japan by the government. What kind of involvement of the government, Japanese government, are any of you expecting? Okay, great. Mr. Nishi? When it comes to regulations, I'll talk about it later. But first of all, when it comes to nutrition issues, each regional governments are facing the big problem because it adds cost to the local governments for health deterioration of the citizens. Nutrition problems are seen as a cost of health Medicare cost by the local governments. We need to look at the entire ecosystem. I feel before regulation changes, we need to raise the awareness of the local government and to enhance the collaboration between the citizens, companies, local governments, and the central government all together. Thank you. Mr. Furuta, anything to add? Mr. Nishi talked about the raising awareness. I feel that's an important point as well. For example, in Europe, in the EU, there's a Nutri-Score. Nestle and Danone, such large companies are applying and incorporating such scores when they sell products. We should look at the EU and New Zealand, Australia as well. And of course, in Japan, we have different regulations and perhaps different perspectives, expectations when it comes to nutrition and the nutritional labeling on food. For example, ATNI is recommending front of the package labeling. However, in Japan, that is not part of the regulation. That is just one example, but there are differences in the laws of different governments and regions. I'm not saying they have to be all the same, but we need to seek a way to harmonize different laws in all over the world. Thank you very much. There is a question to Ajinomoto. You've introduced ANPS, nutrition profiling system, but what has it been the challenge for introducing this system? And also, what is the difference between the AT and NI system? When it comes to processed foods, we use NPS, and we understand it's the same as the Australian NPS, more or less. However, when we improve, as we improve our products and labeling every year, we understand that we cannot just focus on processed food, because the Japanese average people eat fresh food, half of it, and the half of it is processed food. So we need to look at the overall lifestyle and the food choices and habit of diet of the Japanese citizens. That's how the labeling of different processed food packaging becomes meaningful. I'd like ATNI to work on such a system to be able to look at people's diet as a whole. Thank you. Soon it will be the end of the Q&A session. Ms. Inge Ko is joining us as well here. Some companies are asking how to be assessed by ATNI, and what kind of feedback do you give to such companies who are interested in joining? Inge, if there is anything to add to what has been previously said as well as to this question, please now. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Arisa, and also thank you, Nishi-san, Furuta-san, for your feedback today and for joining today to give your reflections on the global index. And also, I would like to thank you personally for the big support from both of your companies in the engagement for this index. I really think that by having this engagement, we will go into the right direction, and we will also inspire other companies. So although sometimes it might be difficult that the spotlight is on your company while you're a global player, I really think that you are very inspirational for many other companies listening in today, and also companies that want to learn about nutrition. Your feedback has been very helpful. So I agree with the point of that it is very important to educate the consumer. So nutrition literacy, not only for developing countries, but also for developed countries like Japan, is important. So it is part of our methodology. Nishi-san, you mentioned the weight is not sufficient. That is something to consider in future methodologies, and we will take your point into account. I also believe and agree with you that the diet-related approach in the end is very important. We as an organization focus very much on the product, but I agree it is important to put products in the context of a healthy diet. So I think it's interesting input from you to see how we could further elaborate on that point. Lastly, I would like to mention that while our index is really focused on what companies can do, I completely agree that regulation and guidance by governments and other policy makers is very important. And we've also seen, for example, on our India index, that the combined action from governments and companies can make a big difference. We've seen in India that when the government started to give further guidance on fortifications and companies stepped up their efforts on fortifications, that in one index cycle, we could see a major improvement with, in the end, of course, a very positive impact for consumers. So we really hope that we can expand these type of examples around the globe. I also would like to have the call to action indeed to governments, and perhaps we can talk about that in the next panel, what is needed from government perspective to help to accelerate the change for nutrition. Thank you again.
Thank you, Inga. 以上をもちまして、企業パネルの、時間は、終了いたします。非常に活発な議論にご参加いただきましてありがとうございます。今行政、政府に対する期待値が、まさに高まっていた中でタイムリーなご紹介だったと思います。続きまして、
next we have Ms. Dr. Yasumasa Fukushima, Vice Minister for Health, Chief Medical and Global Health Officer. Yes, thank you very much, and the floor is yours. Can you hear me all right?
はい、聞こえております。
Hello, can you hear me well? Hello. Next is Dr. Yasumasa Fukushima. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak with you today. I'm sorry that I have to wear a mask today. I'd like to pay tribute and congratulate you on the release of the Access to Nutrition Index Global Index 2021 in July, ahead of the Tokyo Nutrition Summit to be held in Japan in December this year. At this year's Tokyo Nutrition Summit on 7th and 8th December, there will be a wide range of discussions on tackling the double burden of undernutrition, malnutrition, overnutrition, and their coexistence. One approach to addressing this problem is to promote a healthy and sustainable food environment. In this context, the Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare held an expert panel this year to discuss nutrition issues that should be tackled in collaboration with industry, academia, and government, as well as how to set and evaluate action targets, and compiled a report in June. At this meeting, we'd like to express our gratitude to Mr. Kenji Fuma, CEO of Neural Corporation, the co-organizer of today's event, Ajinomoto, and the National Institute of Health and Nutrition. Thank you for your participation. Today, I'd like to introduce you to 4 slides on Japan's nutrition policy and the Ministry of Health's future efforts in response to this meeting. Nutrition policy in Japan has a long history spanning more than 100 years. It is important to emphasize that Japan started its nutrition policy before its economic development. As the economy grew, so did its universal health coverage on the country's longevity. There are three key elements to Japan's nutrition policy. One, nutrition policy with a focus on diet. Two, the training and deployment of nutrition professionals such as dietitians throughout the country. And three, an evidence-based policy process. Furthermore, it is a comprehensive and inclusive nutrition policy covering all life courses as well as the injured and affected by disasters, for example. Next slide. Japan has developed its nutrition policy to meet the challenges of each era, but there are still challenges to be met to ensure sustainable development. Current priority nutrition issues include excessive salt intake, thinness, weight loss among young women, and the current priority nutrition challenges include nutritional inequalities due to economic disparities, the sustainability of the food environment, which underpins nutrition and health, is also an important issue, as is the need for business to do more to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In this context, strong partnerships between industry, academia, and government are important to promote a healthy and sustainable food environment. This year, in the follow-up to the growth strategy approved by the Cabinet in June this year, it was stated that the Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare will promote the creation of a healthy and sustainable food environment through a collaboration between industry, academia and government. In order to promote this, the Ministry of Health, as mentioned at the beginning of this report, held an expert panel with the participation of business and academic stakeholders and relevant ministers, MAF, METI, MOE, CPA, and published a report in June this year. A report was published. We published a report which also introduces the ATNI Global Report 2018. Based on this discussion, the Ministry of Health will establish an organization to promote healthy and sustainable food environments as a contribution to the achievement of the SDGs, and will promote initiatives by business such as food manufacturers, retailers, and the media. Participating businesses will be asked to set the priority nutrition issues and environmental action targets mentioned earlier, register with the organization, and publish their progress on a dedicated website each year. That is our plan. As an incentive for those who participate in the initiative, we hope to promote ESG investment and expand business opportunities for participating companies. We hope that today's event will help to promote a healthy and sustainable food environment in the future. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you
very much. Okay, let's move on to the next session. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Yasumasa Fukushima. Okay, next is the panel discussion. This is a multi-stakeholder panel discussion. I'm Mr. Fuma. I'd like to be the moderator for this session. I'll introduce the 4 panels today. First of all, Mr. Takashi Miyao from Nomura Asset Management, Senior ESG Specialist. Hello, this is Miyao. Thank you. And the second panel is Mr. Ryuji Yamaguchi. Thank you very much. The Consumer Goods Forum, Mr. Takeshi Matsukawa. Thank you. And finally, Director General at National Institute of Health and Nutrition, Mr. Soichiro Tsugane. Thank you. Thank you very much. We heard from Ajinomoto and Meiji earlier. From the company's point of view, however, we understand and it is important to seek engagement from the government, like we just heard from Dr. Fukushima, and also different stakeholders like yourselves. Thank you for your participation. First of all, we'd like to hear from each of you briefly. First, please go ahead, Mr. Miyao.
Thank you very much. I am from Nomura Asset Management. This is an honor for me to take part in here. And we aim to achieve two goals through our investment in terms of asset management, ESG investments. One is to create a prosperous society through investment returns, and two, to contribute to a resolution of social issues. Both social and environmental issues, which requires more like a longer term perspective. So for the second one, we are putting a lot of an emphasis on it. And in 2011, we signed the principles for responsible investment, and ESG issues is integrated into financial asset management and our investment analysis and decision-making processes. And we always we have an impact in investing in a form of an investment that aims to solve environmental and social problems. At the same time, we are generating investment returns. So this is an area of investment that we have focused for the recent years. And today's comments will be focused mainly on impact investing. And Nomura Asset Management's impact investing is focused on global companies, and we have a strong investment team in London, not only Japan. For example, in 2019, we have endorsed and signed the Access to Medicine Index, and we are actively involved in discussions and initiatives to improve access to healthcare in emerging markets or underdeveloped or developing countries. And we have already conducted several collaborative engagements, as we just said, and we considered that setting a KPI for impact investing to solve the obesity issues in developed countries, we realized with the knowledge of the investment manager alone, there are limits to what we could do. So as a result, we decided that the best way to solve the problem was to join ATNI and actively work together. ATNI evaluates companies in 7 areas: governance, product, availability, marketing, lifestyle, labeling, and engagement, and has unique and excellent tools such as the health star rating, a unique model for evaluating the healthiness of food products. The company has a wealth of human capital to support it. And our participation in events and collaborative engagements will help us set new impact investment targets and to invest more money in better food companies to help solve food challenges over a longer time. So comments on what is good about Japanese food companies, as I touched upon at the beginning, and this webinar is taking place in Japan, and we have the representative companies of Euro-Japanese corporations. So this kind of meeting typically focuses on risk management, risk avoidance. But let's focus on opportunities, like as Mr. Ishii mentioned, but umami, even from the investor's point of view, and also to mitigate the salt consumption. As we all know, the salt consumption is problematic if it's overdone. So the Japanese investors as well, like the health and medical businesses, we've got the results of their activities, and then it is quite positive. It is fair to say. So I'm sure we can further our discussions and incorporating all that achievements, and then also for the Meiji and the safety and the infant formula. I know that your company is very much recognized in that area. The overseas market is to be challenged later on, but like, for example, Danone addresses the challenges by engaging with the couples, not only mothers, but fathers as well. So, and then they can make a mutual contribution. So that's another opportunity. And lastly, when we talk about economy, it is about like labeling. We still see gaps there to address. So, and that is exactly where we need to address. So how we can minimize the gap there, not looking at it as a cost, but as an investment opportunity. That because when we look at expanding the markets, that is the direction that we should go to. So taking it as an investment opportunity, not as cost or risk. So that will be all from me. Thank you very much.
Next,
Mr. Yamaguchi, please, floor is yours. Thank you very much for having me here. I am currently working for the framework of Nutrition Japan public-private platform, in short, NJPPP. It was established in 2016. and to mobilize public and private partnerships for nutrition improvement projects. And we aim to promote these projects by facilitating business environments for food cooperation that engage in nutritional improvement activities in development and emerging countries such as Indonesia, Cambodia, and Myanmar. From 2020, due to the influence of the corona pandemic, unfortunately, we can no longer work overseas. So, as you know, the N4G summit will take place in December in Tokyo. And in response to that situation of corona, we engaged in the work of helping member companies to make commitment as part of their contribution towards that summit. And we have been gathering information in the field of nutrition improvement to be disseminated from Japan as well. Thank you very much. That'll be all from me. Thank you very much. And Mr. Matsukawa, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm going to use this presentation. Thank you very much for inviting me for the Global Index 2021 Japanese launch event. My name is Takeshi Matsukawa, the Consumer Goods Forum General Manager, Japan and Asia Pacific region. I'd like to explain to you what we do and what kind of activities we conduct in Japan for nutrition and health. The Consumer Goods Forum, CGF, works with around 400 international companies, and we are an industry organization. We work on these 4 areas: sustainability, food safety, health and wellness, and E2E VC. CHL is the Health and Wellness Department, and this is in charge of working with ATNI. What we do is health and well-being framework, to introduce such framework and nutrition program for employees to promote employee well-being, and also to promote healthy behavior change among consumers in shops, online sales, and local communities. In Japan, when it comes to employees' wellness, well-being, we have a few different working groups, such as Employee Health Working Group and Salt Reduction Working Group and Older People's Working Groups. If you're interested in the details, please write to me here. Thank you very much. Mr. Tsugane next. Thank you. Thank you very much for letting me join today. We advocate for new policies by providing data and evidence. I'd like to talk about the Japanese diet and habits based on our research. This shows the mortality attributable to dietary risks. This is international data, on the left and the Japanese data is on the right. You can see the orange is the dietary mortality rate, and as you can see, overall the Japanese mortality is very low. This is linked to Japan having the longest lifespan of the world. This is a detailed list of diet-related risk factors. Smoking, overweight is here, but I'm showing only the nutrition diet. The numbers in blue shows how the Japanese figures are much lower than the figures in black in the world. In that sense, excess deaths due to dietary is very low in Japan. However, there are some problems of, for example, cow milk, insufficient intake of cow milk and calcium and sodium. As you can see, the figures are, some figures are higher than the world average. Next. Mr. Nishi from Ajinomoto was mentioning earlier as well, but Japanese eating habits consist of a lot of different food on one table, rather than having one big plate. As you can see here, especially cardiovascular risk will go down depending on how many different foods you eat every day. The Japanese average is 26 per day, about 5 vegetables and 1 meat and 2 fish, for example, and a lot of soy items as well. This is a feature of Japanese average eating habit. So, as I said earlier, the Japanese diet is very different from diet, for example, in America. Also, Japanese people tend to eat not just processed food, but also freshly cooked food. This will be the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
大変な話題提供をしていただいたなというふうに思っております。ありがとうございます。
So this kind of data is very important, and then, as you know, because everything will be data-driven or based. And if you have any questions, please send it to us. And when we address nutritional challenges and issues, and of course there will be challenges, the global challenges in this respect. And we would like to ask Mr. Miao there, Global Asset Management, when corporations look at these nutritional issues in association with the business results or business activities. How can you even more like mobilize your business activities? Yes, as I was talking about earlier, ESG needs to be associated or addressed. So it is important to like directly address the nutritional dietary issues. So that is what we would like them to, the companies to really recognize and address. And also the regular engagement with the stakeholders. It's a mutual understanding is sought here. It is not one way or one-sided request to communicate and mutually understand and exchange views and opinions. So Mr. Yamaguchi, you touched upon the activities in Asia, like so what do you have to add? Yes, it's about improvement of the nutritional like a diet or lifestyles. Of course, the local culture as well as the regulations and the legislations. The activities have to be addressed as the total, like wholesome activities. And in Asia, I've been engaging with activities, and then of course we have to have a collaborations. We work with the Indonesian government, local governments, and also agencies. Indonesia, traditionally, the culture in terms of the diet, they don't typically consume vegetables as much, but that needs to be addressed. And then, of course, it is difficult to change, but the behavior transformation, although it is difficult, it will impact positively and largely. And this is something that people, as well as the government officials, understand. And so in order to promote changes here, we can support them by showing them how it is effective and how important it is exactly. So, of course, there are times that we find similarities, but at the same time, by addressing these issues in this way, that would really like advances and then also that advances in addressing the problems. And this is the platform that you are also taking part. What about as a working group? How do you see? Yes, I think it was, you hit the nail on its head that not only the foods industry, but how we're going to address it holistically, or that is the biggest point and issue here. And it is to address the consumers. Of course, we educate. Yes, education is a word, but it is about how we communicate. And we need to like effectively, successfully communicate. It is about how then about how we can change or modify our products. So we need to address various stakeholders using the value chains. Without that kind of activities, it is going to be even more difficult. So from that point of view, how we're going to make progress. And what I mean is like, it is not something that we should do on our own. We all need to try and find the best solutions hand in hand.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tsugane next. So in Japan, after the World War II, the government has been involved in nutrition enhancement. However, there is still calcium and sodium insufficiency, calcium insufficiency in Japan. But how do you feel about this aspect? Like I said before, even if you are told you need to reduce sodium or you need to take more calcium, it's not easy. Easier said than done. Of course, when you look at much perhaps bigger people in the West, Japanese people might see it slightly differently, but first, we need to think about not to leave anyone left behind. We need to continue our research on better diets continually. As earlier it was introduced, but the report was published in June. I understand that healthy diet is very important. So multi-stakeholder collaboration is essential in order to raise awareness. We are a neutral body to be between private and public sectors. So we'd like to be the bridge. Thank you. We have only a few minutes left in the panel discussion. However, we have some questions from the audience. First of all, do you think the new NPS, nutrition profiling system, should we introduce a Japanese version of NPS? That is the question. Meiji is considering, and Ajinomoto already has their own ANPS. In relation to this topic, is there any opinion? Great. Mr. Yamaguchi, please. I said briefly earlier as well, but under COVID-19, our project has been delayed a little bit. However, I have started activity ahead of the food summit in Tokyo. In this activity, we gather different stakeholders and create bridge. And actually, I've been meeting with you, Inge, as well, monthly for this. So we work on trying to introduce new kind of products needed in the market. Sadly, Japanese companies are not participating in this largely yet. So first, we need to listen to the Japanese companies, what they are interested in creating and contributing. So this is the working group, and Ajinomoto is part of it as well. Unfortunately, we don't have many companies who wanted to join making a Japanese version of nutrition profiling system. So perhaps the Japanese companies are still not yet interested in an NPS in Japan. However, we need to work on the front of package labeling because that is the trend globally. That's my opinion. Thank you. So you think NPS is needed in Japan as well? Okay, thank you. There's a question to Mr. Tsugane. In Japan, you said people tend to use more seasoning than the West. But what about over intake of seasoning in Japan? Is there any problem in this aspect? Could you please expand on this aspect, please? Mr. Tsugane? Oh, that's a very difficult question, isn't it? I don't think seasoning leads to over intake of certain nutrition, apart from sodium, salt. Of course, in Japan, Japanese diet includes already a lot of salt in the foods. On top of that, to eat lots of salt via soy sauce, for example, that is an issue. So, in terms of the profiling system, we need to, in Japan at least, we need to look at the diet, cooked food as well in the profiling in order to measure the salt intake. Thank you. I wish we could hear more from everyone today. However, I'm going to conclude the panel session now. Thank you very much for your contribution. Finally, we'd like to hear the closing remarks by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to highlight the opportunity for industry to participate in N4G. Ms. Okada, please.
外務省の国際協力局の審議官の岡田と申します。
I am Ms. Keiko Okada, Deputy Assistant Minister, International Cooperation Bureau, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan. Thank you for your introduction, Mr. Fuma, CEO of Neural. It is a great honor for me to be here today at the Global Index 2021. There has been a lot of discussion about the global nutrition challenges. Nutrition is an essential part of human life. Undernutrition due to hunger and poverty is still a major challenge, while overnutrition, unbalanced nutrition, climate-compatible agriculture, and food loss are also challenges. Nutrition is an issue that needs to be addressed by everyone in the world. The Tokyo Nutrition Summit for Growth, Nutrition for Growth Summit, which had to be postponed due to the spread of COVID, is now scheduled to take place on the 7th and 8th of December 2021. The summit aims to identify progress and challenges in improving nutrition worldwide and to accelerate efforts to improve nutrition through the formulation of commitments to address these challenges. We are looking for participation from governmental levels, international organizations, academia, civil society, and private sector. At the last two summits, London 2013 and Rio in 2016, the main focus was on tackling undernutrition. In contrast, at the 2021 summit in Tokyo, we'd like to discuss measures to address not only undernutrition, but also overnutrition and the double burden of undernutrition, which is a combination of both, while taking into account the perspective of contributing to the realization of the SDGs. we also aim to contribute to the rest of the world in various ways, such as by referring to Japan's healthy food culture and sharing our know-how on how to improve nutrition through multi-sectoral public-private partnerships to achieve a healthy and long-lived society as a governmental policy. In addition, given the importance of the food environment, the summit emphasizes the involvement of the private sector. Every country in the world has some kind of nutritional challenge, which is why this summit is very important as it's relevant for every country. The summit will focus on 5 main themes. 1. Health, integrating nutrition into universal health coverage, UHC. 2. Food, building healthy and sustainable food systems. 3. Resilience, tackling undernutrition in fragile situations. 4. Accountability, data-based monitoring. 5. Financial resources, securing financial resources to improve nutrition. The program of the summit is currently planned to include a high-level session on Tuesday, 7th December, in which the heads of high-level governments and international organizations will express their commitments, and thematic sessions, panel discussions per theme on Wednesday, 8th December. The country's institutions, companies, and panelists to deliver speeches will be selected in consultation with relevant stakeholders. Satellite events may be held from the 1st of October, excluding the time of the summit, until the 17th of December, approximately 1 week after the summit. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has posted an online outline of the satellite events and registration procedures on the website with a deadline as the 15th of October. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is looking forward to receiving requests for events that aim to promote nutrition-related initiatives from various organizations and companies. We'd like to position these events as related to the Tokyo Nutrition Summit and use them to build momentum for the summit.
At this summit, all stakeholders, including industry sectors, are invited to present their commitment for actions to be taken in the future. So the commitment should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, based on the acronym SMART, S-M-A-R-T. For example, companies are encouraged to contribute to the advancement of global nutrition by announcing specific policies such as, by what year will we reduce the price of nutritionally friendly products by 30%? Or by what year will we develop 3 new products that help build healthy and sustainable food systems? And by sharing experiences and lessons learned with each other. And we hope that you will share your experiences and lessons learned with us. And in order to make it easier for stakeholders to come up with commitments, the government of Japan, with the cooperation of international nutrition experts, has prepared a guide for making commitments, which includes key policies to be addressed and concrete ideas. Please refer to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website and the N4G website. After the Tokyo Nutrition Summit 2021, we will have prepared a system to check the progress of the announced commitments throughout the world through the Global Nutrition Report. The nutrition is an extremely important element related to all the goals of the SDGs. Among the various stakeholders, the role of industry is particularly important in achieving the SDGs. the key is for industry to incorporate the SDGs into its own core business and contribute to solving social issues through business. Nutrition issues have long been considered part of the health sector because of the challenges they pose to human health. In recent years, however, it has become increasingly recognized that the impact on improving human nutrition cannot be maximized without improving the food system, including agriculture and the food industry, which influences the quality of food that consumers eat. This is an area where multi-sectoral strategies and investments are needed. In addition to ensuring safety, food companies are expected to contribute to sustainable development by considering the environmental and social impact of their supply chains as globalization progresses. And in addition to this, food made from safe and reliable ingredients and food that supplements missing nutrition cannot be obtained without the help of companies. More and more Japanese companies are offering menu in their company cafeterias that take the health of their employees into consideration. And this trend is spreading overseas as well. The Tokyo Nutrition Summit aims to bring together these investments in multi-sectoral nutrition improvement projects and to encourage measures that will lead to an overall improvement in nutritional status. The Tokyo Nutrition Summit 2021 will be an opportunity for a wide range of stakeholders in Japan and abroad to re-examine what they should do to improve international nutrition and achieve the SDGs, with an emphasis on providing side support to those involved so that they can post these goals in their policies and strategies. Thank you very much.
はい、ありがとうございます。で、これでですね、本日のスケジュールは、
Thank you very much. This is the end of the event. I'm going to speak briefly at the end. Thank you very much for your participation, everyone, the speakers, and also the participants of the event. As Ms. Okada just explained to us, this seminar is related to the event in December. Of course, there is a big interest from all over the world regarding nutrition and food. It's very meaningful that we hold this summit in Tokyo, as the Japanese companies are showing their interests. We'd like to use this as a momentum. It was a short event today, only 2 hours. There are a lot of things that I wish we could discuss further today. However, I hope this event will have become an opportunity to start dialogues between companies and different stakeholders. I'd like to close today's seminar now. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you.